I do want to thank you again for taking the time to come on here. I know you're a busy man, so thank you very much. I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a tidbit about myself. So I am a sociology graduate, very, very special interest in the paranormal. I do a little bit of horror writing on the side as well, so I'm in that space. I also have an interest in kind of researching local urban legends and local myths, and yeah, so that brought me here to you because Dyer Lane is nearby. It's kind of the first investigation of this kind that I've ever done in my entire life, really. I just wanted to check out, the kind of local myths and the local legends around the road. There's a lot about it online, as you've seen, I'm sure. And you've written, I think, quite a few articles on it, since the late 2010s. So without further ado, I think we should get started. I just want to get to know a little bit more about you and kind of introduce who you are, what you do. Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So, how did you get your start in paranormal investigation? Can you give people kind of a little rundown of who you are, what your background is in? How did you get here to who you are today?
Okay. As a child, I lived in a haunted house. All kinds of terrible things happened to me. So when I got older, I started reading books on the paranormal. I was reading books by Brad Steiger and everything else. Even Eric von Daniken's Chariot of the Gods. And I got into the military, 73 to 76. I was in the U.S. Army, CID Criminal Investigation Division, working undercover in Germany. And that's where my investigative skills came in. I took a 3-year break. In 1979, I was in military intelligence, 97 Bravo. I joined military intelligence because I said if anybody knows about UFOs, military intelligence would. And I learned a few things while I was there. When I got out, I was doing all kinds of different things. I was a journalist. I was writing for various magazines and everything else. I met a paranormal investigator, and they said, Paul, you write these stories and everything else. You ought to join us on a paranormal investigation and write about it. And I said, yeah, why not? So I did that, and it was published in 3 British magazines. The person was very impressed. They had me as their ghostwriter. And from there, I became a general manager of HPI, Haunted Paranormal Investigations. Later on, I became the owner of Halo Paranormal Investigations. I changed the name on it. And then I've done something like 2,500 investigations. I've investigated Skinwalker Ranch, Area 51, all over the world. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been to 59 countries and territories. I've written about 185 books. And right now, I work for 3 magazines, Outer Limits Magazine, Phenomena Magazine, Paranormal Underground Magazine, and I work for the Costa Rica Times. And I write all these paranormal stories. So, here I am.
Thank you so much. Awesome and super interesting. I can see how your background kind of led you to where you are today. I do want to talk a little bit more about your time as like a location scout. I know that's something that's kind of interesting to a lot of people, what makes a location special? Like, what kinds of considerations would you make before you start to investigate, or like at your time at Ghost Adventures, would you recommend a location for shooting?
what happens is I have what is called the paranormal hotline. So people call me and they say, hey, my house is haunted. I got a demon here, blah, blah, blah. I live in this city, blah, blah, blah. And so I will go over there, do an investigation. I'll do a house blessing. If they have an attachment, I'll do a full submersion baptism. If they say they still have the problem, then I contact my people, Justin West, over at Ghost Adventures, and I say I have a location for you. Send Zach over there. So I've done that a few times. Emergency in Elk Grove, that was one of my cases. Horror in Biggs. Something in Antelope, they gave me on the credits, they said thank you. Um, I've been on 2 episodes of Ghost Adventures, Crisis in Oakdale. So I had a good working relationship with them. As a location scout, of course, they pay me. And so if I find them a location, and some of them, I did not go over there when Ghost Adventures did their investigation because I was busy with other investigations. So I kind of just threw it on them. And that's how I became a location scout for Ghost Adventures.
That's awesome. Speaking of locations, let's get to the topic of this interview. So, I want to know a little bit more about how you came into contact with Dyer Lane when it first got on your radar. Does anything really stand out to it compared to your other investigations or anything like that?
Dyer Lane is just one crazy place. You have all these different stories, and with urban legends, sometimes there's a foundation of truth. And as we look at Dyer Lane, with all the stories, you got Morgan's Coven, which is the cursed witches of Dyer Lane, and that supposedly happened in 1932 to 1934, where 6 witches would do their little chants and rituals out in the fields, and these boys were spying on them. And I guess supposedly in the story, one of the witches, or maybe 2 of them, I'm not sure, were actually physically assaulted by these boys. The witches put a curse on them, and the boys, 4 of them, one was hit by a truck, one was stabbed in the stomach in Los Angeles, one drowned in the Sacramento River, and one died in a ski accident. So they were cursed by these witches, Morgan's Coven. So that was just like one of the stories. As I did my investigation, I've heard the stories. I talked to some people who actually claim that they saw the ghost of the witches. Are either they're telling the truth or maybe they're not. I don't know. I can tell you that Dyer Lane is haunted because I've actually walked down the street, did an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. I said, is there anybody here? I pause, give it time to talk, I play it back, and it says, I'm right here. So, yeah. So, there is ghosts there because there was real things that happened. Some of the urban legends was in 1954, a ghostly police car. Supposedly, it was chasing a KKK, got into an accident, the police officer died, and people to this day claim that they see a police car, and when they pull over, it vanishes. That's one of the stories. Another one, the KKK was having their meetings out there in 1954. They took a African American named Tyrone and they lynched him. Okay, that's another story. Have I found any truth to it? I've done some researching. I can't really find any records of it. But there's other things that go on, but I'll get to that. 1946, John Wilkins was driving his tractor. The witches were chasing him, and he got into an accident and he died. And people see a ghostly image of a man on a tractor out in the fields. And there's people that swear up and down they're seeing these ghosts. Then in 1967, you got the Satanic Order of Amdusias. And they did a sacrifice on one of their members named Lynn. They wear these red hoodies. They have a large a yellow A on their back, which stands for Amdusias. They summoned Amdusias at the torture trees, and they had Lynn tied up between two trees out in Dyer Lane, and those trees are known as the torture trees, and they summoned this demon. So that was one of the stories. Oh, then there's the Dyer Lane hitchhiker. It was Ed Beacon in 1969. He picked up this. I'm sorry. Michael Sorey gave this hitchhiker a ride. I'm sorry. And he went into convulsions, and he said the chanting, and then he passed away. And they see this ghostly hitchhiker with his thumb out. So when I did my investigation over there, what I saw in Dyer Lane is a bunch of garbage. People throw their garbage out there. There's a lot of negative energy, lots of it. I mean, you can feel it in the air. There's graffiti all over. There's some satanic graffiti that you will find. You will find outlines of dead bodies, but there was never any dead bodies there, but they make those outlines. People play with their Ouija boards out there, which is a bad idea, because as a paranormal investigator, people that play with Ouija boards sometimes open up portals, and with those portals, they have demons that go through the portals. Lots of ghost hunters. Anybody interested in the paranormal is going to hang out there. High school kids drinking, taking drugs, partying, you'll find them there. There's been a lot of car accidents because people drinking and driving. There was an incident in 2019. This lady got boxed in by 3 cars, and she made a video of it. So that was that incident. There's cars that follow other cars, which spook out the drivers. And also, too, this could be a case of tulpas. And I'll tell you what a tulpa is. Isaiah, do you know what a tulpa is?
I do not actually. I would love to hear what a tulpa is from you.
Okay. The author, Walter B. Gibson, he wrote the character The Shadow. Only the Shadow knows. And he concentrated so much on the shadow that his friends and family that would visit him at the house would see this character walking around the house that had a long nose, had a red scarf over his mouth, had a large brim hat, and wore all black. And they told Walter B. Gibson what they were seeing. And Walter B. Gibson was very surprised, and he goes, "That's my character, the Shadow." Well, Walter B. Gibson was thinking about this character so much that the energy from his mind created the character. And the Shadow came to existence because of the power of the mind. And with people seeing, let's say, the ghostly tractor or the ghostly police car, they may be creating a tulpa because they believe in it so much. So these tulpas could be existing at Dyer Lane. Another example is Slender Man. Slender Man was created on the internet, but yet we're actually getting reports of people who actually see Slender Man. And we know that Slender Man is fictional, but yet people are seeing it. Yeah.
This is so interesting, actually, and honestly, that this is a great kind of a side tangent, just because we're going to get into this later on in the interview, actually, because that's actually very relevant to some of the questions I'm going to ask you. That sounds very familiar, Topos, now that you're describing it to me. And I think I will jump around a little bit. On that note, I'm sure you've been in the area, so there are two high schools, right, that are very, very close in proximity to Dyer Lane, which are cesspools of, like, rumors and, like, legend propagation, that sort of thing. It kind of becomes like a echo chamber, right? And, if a high schooler hears that, oh, this road is haunted, and like, oh, if you turn your car off on this intersection, it might not start up again. To what degree is that inviting more, of those legends, or to what degree is that perpetuating the myth, to others? Like, what are your thoughts on that, on like that self-propagation, on those echo chambers, and how does it play into how these myths form, and grow?
Well, if you have a multitude of people throwing out that negative energy into that area, you're going to feel it. It's going to be created. And energy is like forever. So, and if people are believing these stories, they could very possibly be creating tulpas. And tulpas is a real thing. I mean, I've done investigations. One of our investigations, let me tell you, it was a teacher, and she loved gardening. She would work on her garden all the time. She just loved it, the flowers, the whole works. And one day, as she was teaching class, the students were looking outside, and they saw the teacher out in the garden. But she was in class teaching. She created her own tulpa, which was herself. She created a doppelganger, and it was out there working on the garden. So, a lot of things could be happening. We definitely know there's some ghosts out there, because there's been people who died out there. In 2017, you had a 28-year-old woman, and she was murdered on Dyer Lane. 1972, you had a drunk driving accident where the driver died. 1980s, there was a high school gang that attacked some kid, and they killed him at Dyer Lane. So you have drug dealing, you got stolen cars being stripped, you got so much negative energy, and it's just happening. And also too, with the Morrigan Coven, I was like doing some searching, and there is a Morrigan Coven. I don't know if they were involved with anything with Dyer Lane, but Morrigan, she was a goddess. She was an Irish goddess of war, fate, and death. She can change into a crow and raven, and she knows prophecy. What is kind of interesting, a lot of people say they see black crows at Dyer Lane. So I don't know.
I do want to kind of reverse back and talk a little bit more on the cult of Amdusias. So you did mention that there was these two trees that they hung
the torture trees.
Yeah, the torture trees. So I've done a little bit of research myself on Amdusias, the demon. Right, Amdusias is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Amdusias is kind of depicted in the Lesser Key of Solomon, right, the 72 demons, and Amdusias is said to have dominion over like sound and music and trumpets, and also having the power to like bend trees, right? So it feels like the connection is kind of obvious there, because I've gone to Dyer Lane myself a few times just to investigate, and there's lots of bent trees there. Do you think the cult maybe would pick Dyer Lane and the fields surrounding it because of this, or do you think that's a result of their presence there? Like, which do you think came first?
I think that if that coven actually exists, um, I think they saw two trees growing together, and it would be a very good spot to tie somebody up. I mean, yeah,
right.
it's very possible. And not only that, I mean, with all these stories, there's people out there who say, oh, okay, well, I'm a witch or whatever, and they're doing chanting or whatever weird stuff in the fields. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they said that sometimes they do hear chanting. They've seen some strange people out in the field doing some weird stuff, lighting candles and stuff like that, doing rituals. So it attracts these type of people in this negative spot called Dyer Lane.
I want to talk a little more about energy, right, and the tulpas you were mentioning earlier. So earlier you were mentioning that there was a story of a lady and she was seen in the garden, right? But to me that sounds like a positive, right, as a result of positive energy, correct?
Right.
So, that implies that, it could go both ways. But is there a balance there, or what would negative energy maybe have more of an effect on, the presence of a tulpa, or what do you think is the balance is there? Is it equal? Does positive energy have the same amount of weight as negative energy? What do you think?
I'll give you two examples. Okay. In 1974 in Chicago, Illinois, this couple moved into this house. And around about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, they would see a man manifest. And he would walk over to the couch, and a woman would manifest. And he started striking the woman 3 times. This happened 2 or 3 times that they saw these apparitions. They went to a block party, and the host says, yeah, we do this every year. What was that sound? We do this every year, and here's some of our photos from our past events. And as the lady was looking at the photos, she goes, oh my God, this photo here, those are the ghosts in my house. And the host looks at her and goes, ghosts? They lived in your house. They had domestic disputes. The police were there all the time. And they got a divorce. She lives 5 blocks down the road, and he lives out of state. They're both alive.
Wow.
Yeah, so here she saw these ghosts in her house, but these are living ghosts. These are people who are still alive, but they put out so much negative energy, the residual energy lives on over and over and over again. Another example is this guy. He was a little bit nervous about giving a speech, and he put his little soapbox out there, and he wanted to run for office. So he started giving this speech. He was a little bit nervous, but he did it. Well, people now see the ghost of that man who's still alive giving that speech, but he has so much nervous, positive energy that it was blasted into the atmosphere, and it replays itself over and over again.
Wow, this I can't help but draw a similarity between that and just this, like Pompeii, the victims of Pompeii, like just leaving a permanent imprint on the world,
right.
as a result of that tragedy, that's super interesting. gives a lot of context to kind of how we conduct ourselves and the impact we have on the world, right? Not just in our actions now, but on what we leave behind, right?
Right.
So, on that topic of Dyer Lane being, really trashy and people dumping a lot of, just having a lot of negative energy there, I think with a lot of haunted locations, you see a lot of common themes of like this just neglect or decrepitude, to what degree do you think that like municipal or county neglect plays into the legends of these locations or the energy of these locations?
It's avoidance. People just say, hey, we're not going to do anything with this property. They just want to avoid it. But I'm hearing stories now that Dyer Lane may be changed over, and that they're going to build houses there and everything else. So it's going to be interesting if they do. Will these new houses be haunted?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or do you think that would turn the energy around, or at least combat it?
That energy is kind of hard to get rid of. And I'll tell you why. In the pocket area of Sacramento, supposedly some of the houses were built on Native American land. And some of those houses became haunted, and they're brand new houses. And I've done investigations there, and it's because one, Native Americans were buried near those homes, and there's rumors that the Portuguese also too had some of their settlers buried on that property. So those new homes all of a sudden become haunted, and I get phone calls on the paranormal hotline.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, do you think it's possible to turn around the energy of a place like Dyer Lane, or do you think it's kind of like a shot in the dark, or it's not possible?
When it's a house, it's a little bit easier. Okay, so if I go into a house, it's full of negative energy, and what I do is I do a Roman Catholic house blessing with holy water and a crucifix. I go to each room, I start from the back, move out to the front, and chase the entities. I've been very successful with that. Also, too, what I do suggest